The chosen one's special teaching that changes everything. Have you ever felt like life has been whispering a secret just beneath the noise? Like there's something you were meant to understand, but it's been buried under distractions, heartbreak, and the constant rush to be someone? I know that feeling intimately. I was in the middle of nowhere, broken, exhausted, and spiritually numb, when everything changed. I didn't stumble upon a treasure chest or win the lottery. I encountered him, the chosen one, a teacher unlike anyone I had ever known. And what he shared with me, it didn't just challenge my understanding of life, it dismantled it. In this video, I'm going to take you on a spiritual journey so profound that by the time we reach the end, your perception of reality, and your place in it, will never be the same again. What you're about to hear isn't for entertainment, it's for your soul. We start here. I was in the ruins of an abandoned monastery deep in the mountains of an unnamed land. The path that led me there was filled with questions. Why am I here? Why do I feel this ache inside? Even when everything looks fine on the outside? Why does joy feel so temporary, and peace so elusive? I didn't go looking for a teacher. I went looking for silence, for escape. But as I sat beneath the cracked stone arches of that monastery, watching the wind scatter leaves like lost thoughts, he appeared. Not with thunder, not with light, just presence. He looked like no one special, and yet, I couldn't look away. His first words: "You're carrying what was never yours." What? I didn't understand. He continued, "Your suffering isn't from what life did to you. It's from what you believed because of it. And your story? It's not over. But first, you must unlearn everything you were taught about who you are." I laughed. I didn't mean to. I thought, what does this man know about me? Then he said my name. Not just my name. He told me my childhood nickname. The one only my grandmother used. The one I hadn't heard since she died. That's when everything inside me shifted. I asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "The one who was chosen to remember what the world forgot." From there, the journey began. He gave me no map, no rules, only riddles, challenges, questions that struck deep like lightning in a dry forest. The first was this: what would be left of you if everything you own, everything you've done, and everyone who knows your name was taken away? I froze, because I didn't know. Do you? Seriously, pause for a second and ask yourself that. What would be left of you, if everything was stripped away? It sounds simple, but it tore open everything I'd built my identity around. He told me, "You are not the voice in your head. You are the awareness hearing it. You are not your pain. You are the one who has survived it. And you are not your achievements. You are the light that has always been, long before you tried to prove your worth." Every word felt like a thread unraveling a tightly woven illusion. We traveled for days, through deserts, through storms, not just physical ones, but emotional and spiritual ones. And every moment, he revealed more of this sacred truth. He told me that humanity's greatest illness is forgetting. We forget we are enough. We forget we are eternal. We forget that we are not here to win life, but to remember who we were before the world told us who to be. He took me to the edge of the cliff that overlooked a valley bathed in moonlight. It was silent, sacred. Then he said something I'll never forget. "This world isn't broken, it's blind. But the moment you see clearly, just once, you become the cure." I didn't know what he meant. Then the phenomenon happened. The clouds above us split, not in a dramatic, Hollywood-style spectacle, but with eerie stillness. And within the gap, stars formed a shape I'd seen before. On a drawing from my childhood. I gasped. The Chosen One simply said, "You're starting to remember." And at that moment, something exploded inside me. Not pain. Not joy. Clarity. I saw every major moment in my life. Every heartbreak. Every betrayal. Every triumph. Not as random events, but as carefully placed puzzle pieces, forming a map. A sacred map leading to this very moment. My whole body shook. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Because I realized nothing had ever been wasted. Not the pain. Not the silence. Not the nights I thought I was alone. And neither has yours. This isn't just my story. It's ours. Because the Chosen One's special teaching? It wasn't meant just for me. It was meant for you. He told me something else that night. Something that didn't make sense at the time, but would later flip my entire life upside down. He leaned close and whispered, "There will come a moment when your soul is offered a choice. Not between good and evil, but between forgetting and awakening. And when that moment comes, you won't hear a voice. You won't see a sign. You'll feel a silence inside you that is louder than any scream. A silence that says, this is the moment. That moment is coming. Maybe for you, it's already here. Are you ready? Because the next part of this journey will take us far deeper. And what happens next is something no one, not even I, was prepared for. The secret code buried in your soul, and why it's about to be activated. Have you ever had a moment where everything went completely quiet? Not just around you, but inside of you? A moment so still, it felt like the entire universe was holding its breath. That's what it felt like the moment after the Chosen One whispered those words to me. There will come a moment when your soul is offered a choice. Not between good and evil, but between forgetting and awakening. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My body was still, but my soul, it was vibrating. I felt like something ancient was waking up inside of me. Something buried so deep, I didn't even know it existed. The Chosen One watched me in silence. He said nothing, but I knew. He knew what I was feeling. The next morning, he handed me a small object. It was a stone. Rough, black, almost charred looking. Ordinary at first, until I held it in my palm. The moment I touched it, I saw something. Not with my eyes, but with something deeper. It was a memory. But not my memory. It was from someone else's life, centuries ago. A young girl, barefoot, standing before a burning temple, tears in her eyes. She whispered something in an ancient language I didn't understand, but somehow, I felt the meaning. I will return when the world forgets. I dropped the stone. I was trembling. What was that? I asked. The Chosen One looked at me with eyes full of both sorrow and fire. You're beginning to access the code buried in your soul. What code? He placed his hand over my heart and said, the original imprint, the part of you that existed before your first breath, the sacred pattern your soul chose, before you entered this world. I didn't understand. Not yet. So he explained. You think you are just flesh and bone. But you are more ancient than time itself. You were created with a pattern, a divine code, infused into the very essence of your being. Every heartbreak, every trial, every miracle, it's all been activating parts of that code, preparing you for this moment. He said most people go their entire lives without ever fully activating it. But some reach a point of rupture, a crack so deep it lets the light pour in. And in that pain, in that moment of surrender, the code wakes up. I asked him, why does it take pain to wake it up? His answer still echoes in my heart. Because your ego clings to comfort, but your soul thrives in the fire. He turned and started walking. I followed. He led me to a hidden cavern beneath the monastery ruins. Inside, carvings covered every surface, symbols I had never seen, but somehow recognized, as if they had always lived in my dreams. These, he said, are the languages of the awakened. And then he did something impossible. He placed his palm on the wall. The carvings began to glow, one by one, illuminating the space like stars emerging in the night sky. But the most shocking part? My own body responded. My chest burned with heat. My spine tingled. My hands trembled. Not from fear, but from resonance. He turned to me and said, "You've been here before." I thought he meant this cavern. But no. I mean life. You chose this incarnation. You volunteered for it. You knew it would be hard. You knew you would forget. But you also knew the code inside you could never be destroyed. I couldn't speak. Because deep inside me, something whispered, "It's true." And then, he told me something that sent chills down my spine. There is a reason this code is buried. Because once it's activated, you can no longer live like everyone else. You can no longer play the game of fear, of pretending, of conforming. The moment your soul remembers, you will be called, and your life will no longer belong to you. That terrified me. Because I realized, I was standing on the edge of everything I thought I knew. And if I stepped forward, there would be no turning back. So I asked him the question that burned in my soul. What happens if I choose to awaken fully? He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You become the flame. Not a follower, not a seeker, not even a teacher. A flame. A living, breathing reminder to others of what they've forgotten. But there's a cost. Your illusions will burn," he said. "Your attachments will tremble. Your old life may crumble. But in its place, something unshakable will rise." I stood there, frozen between terror and truth. And then he handed me a mirror. "Look," he said. I saw my reflection, but something was different. My eyes glowed, not literally, but with a depth I'd never seen before. And suddenly I remembered a dream I had as a child. I was standing in a field of stars. A voice told me, "You are the keeper of the spark." I hadn't thought of that dream in years. But now, it made sense. The spark, the code, the fire. I wasn't meant to just survive this life. I was meant to ignite it. And so are you. Right now, as you hear these words, something ancient inside of you is stirring. Don't ignore it. That tug on your heart, that fire in your chest, that ache that refuses to be silenced. That's not anxiety. That's your soul knocking. You've known for a long time that you're different. That the rules others follow don't quite fit you. That there's something deeper pulling you, calling you. You're not crazy. You're waking up. And the chosen one's teaching? It's not about religion. It's not about dogma. It's about remembrance. That you are the universe in motion. That you were created not to fit in, but to illuminate. That your pain was never punishment. It was preparation. And now, the moment is here. The code inside you is flickering. Are you ready to fan the flame? Because in the final part of this journey, the Chosen One reveals the ultimate secret, the truth that changes everything. About death, about life, about why we're here. And what he does next will leave you speechless. He revealed the final truth, and it shattered my soul, in the best way. We stood in the sacred cavern, the walls still glowing faintly with ancient symbols, and I felt something I'd never experienced before. Not peace, not fear, but a kind of soul-level clarity. The Chosen One turned to me. His face now looked older, or maybe wiser, or maybe I was just seeing more of him, as if something invisible had peeled away and revealed a depth beyond the physical. I've shown you the path to your flame, he said. Now I must give you the final teaching. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. Because deep down, I knew this was it. This was the truth I'd been searching for my entire life. The truth hidden beneath pain, beneath ambition, beneath every distraction this world throws at us. He said, every human being is born with a veil. That veil is not punishment. It is the protection of divine mystery. It allows you to choose love without being forced, to seek truth even when the world offers you lies. But the veil is thinning, for all of us. Then he asked me a question that cracked something inside me. Do you remember what it was like before you were born? I shook my head. Of course not. But then, images began flashing in my mind. Not memories exactly, but knowing, like fragments of forgotten light. He saw it happen. You're beginning to feel it, he said. The soul never forgets. It just falls asleep in the noise of the world. But now you're close. Closer than you've ever been. To seeing it all. He placed both hands on my shoulders and looked directly into my eyes. What I'm about to tell you will not only change your life. It will split it in two. There will be before this moment, and after. My heart pounded. And then, he spoke. In the beginning, you were not a body. You were awareness. Pure. Undivided. Existing in harmony with all that is. Then, you chose to descend. To enter the illusion of separation. Why? Because the greatest beauty in the cosmos is not unity, but unity remembered. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You chose to come here, he continued, because you wanted to learn love. Not from books, not from heavens, but through pain, through loss, through the forgetting. He paused. And the remembering. A tear slipped down my cheek. Because everything he said felt right. It wasn't new information. It was ancient truth my soul had been longing to reclaim. Then he said the words that broke me open. You are not broken. You are blooming. And I collapsed. Not from exhaustion, but from surrender. All the weight I carried, the shame, the guilt, the questions, the trying to prove I was worthy. It all melted. He sat beside me in the silence. And then he told me the final secret. One he said very few ever hear, and even fewer accept. The Chosen One is not me, he said. I looked at him, stunned. He smiled. The Chosen One is you. My mind went blank. He continued. Everyone is born chosen, but few choose it back. Few say yes to the flame. Few are willing to let their false self die so their true self can rise. He stood up and held out his hand. Say yes. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want it, but because I knew what it meant. It meant the end of excuses. The end of hiding. The end of playing small. It meant that from this moment forward, I would carry a light the world might not understand. A truth too deep for language. A love too fierce for fear. But I said it anyway. Yes. The moment I said it, the entire cavern lit up. Every symbol ignited. The room pulsed with living energy. My body felt like it was dissolving into something infinite. And then, I saw everything. Not with eyes, but with soul. I saw souls entering bodies. I saw people praying for peace they already had inside them. I saw wounds turning into wisdom. I saw that every single moment of pain in my life had led me to this moment. To remember who I really was. And then I saw you. Yes, you. Watching this. Listening. Feeling the same tug in your chest that I once felt. This isn't a coincidence. You're here. Because your soul brought you here. Because you felt the veil thinning too. You've seen glimpses of something deeper. You've had moments of beauty so intense they brought you to tears. And you knew, for a split second, that there's more to this life than what you were told. So now, I'm passing this to you. You don't need to go to a monastery. You don't need a mysterious guide. Because the chosen one is already within you. Waiting. Longing. Burning to be remembered. You have a flame. You have a code. You have a voice that was never meant to sound like anyone else's. So I'm asking you now. Will you say yes? Will you allow your illusions to burn so your light can rise? Will you stop pretending you're ordinary? Will you stop apologizing for the truth you carry? You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to awaken. You were never meant to be ruled by fear. You were meant to walk through it. You were never meant to question your worth. You are the proof that divinity exists. Right now, I want you to breathe in deeply. Feel your chest rise. That breath, that's life saying, I'm not done with you yet. And if you listen, really listen, you'll hear the whisper. The same one I heard on that mountaintop. You're carrying what was never yours. Let it go. Let go of the stories. Let go of the shame. Let go of the belief that you're not ready. Because if you weren't ready, you wouldn't be here. The chosen one's special teaching isn't some ancient scroll locked in a cave. It's you. Fully awake. Unapologetically alive. Set ablaze with a truth so bright that darkness cannot touch it. And now, it's your turn. Go light the world on fire. Now let me ask you this, if today was the last day of your life, would you have truly lived as the chosen one you are?